After Jesus was arrested, they brought Jesus to the high priest. And all the chief priests and the scribes and the elders were assembled. Peter had followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest, and was sitting with the guards, warming himself by the fire. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for testimony against Jesus to put him to death. But they found none, for many gave false testimony against him, but their testimony did not agree. Some stood up and gave false testimony against him, saying, "We heard this man say, 'I will destroy this temple that is made with hands, and in 3 days build another not made with hands.'" But even on this point, their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before them, and he said to Jesus, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But Jesus was silent, and he gave no answer. Again, the high priest said to him, "Are you Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" Jesus answered, "I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming with the clouds of heaven." The high priest tore his robes and he said, "Why do we still need witnesses? You have heard his blasphemy. What is your decision?" All of them condemned him as deserving death. Some began to spit on him and blindfold him and strike him, saying, "Prophesy, who hit you? Prophesy." The guards also took him over and beat him. While Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she stared at him and said, "You also were with Jesus, the man from Nazareth." But he denied it, saying, I do not know or understand what you're talking about." And then he went out into the forecourt. Then the cock crowed. The servant girl, on seeing him, began to say to the bystanders, "This man was one of them." But again, he denied it. After a little while, the bystanders also began to say to him, "Certainly you are one of them, for you are a Galilean, your accent." But he cursed, and he swore an oath, saying, "I do not know the man you are talking about." At that very moment, the cock crowed for the second time. And Peter remembered that Jesus had said to him, "Before the cock crows twice, you will deny me thrice." And he broke down and wept. A brief reflection. Jesus, in the presence of the whole council, the religious leaders of his day, is asked, "Are you Messiah? Are you the Son of the Blessed One?" And it's the only time we hear Jesus say this. He says, "I am." Now, when in that moment, in the council, or even in the moment of the first readers of this gospel, some many years later, they would have all heard in their own mind that the name of God is "I am that I am." That the name of the Creator, of the heavens and the earth, that the name of the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, the name of the God who delivered the children of Israel from Egypt, that his name is I am. And so in that moment, Jesus is clearly stating that the ground of his being, the ground of his life, is in the ground of the whole creation, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the living being that sustains all of life. Jesus is stating that his own very being, that his very own life is grounded in that I am. It's too much for them to handle. It's too much for them to bear. They simply cannot compute this in their own minds and in their own frame of reference. Now, this statement of I am by Jesus is paired with Peter below in the courtyard, who says, not explicitly, but he really says, I am not. Oh, certainly you are one of them. I am not. And so Peter below 3 times makes this simple statement and this claim that he rejects, that he is separated from, that he is removed from his very own existence, his very own I amness. The broader context is that he is rejecting and separating himself from his life in the God who created the heavens and the earth, and he's rejecting and separating himself from the life that is in Christ. It has very powerful consequences for Peter. He breaks down and weeps. As you and I, as we continue to follow Christ, as we continue to live lives of faith, lives engaged in the world, lives of living and blossoming as creations of the one who created the heavens and the earth, created in God's image and filled with that Spirit. There are moments when we come very close and we experience deeply in our spirit and in our mind that I amness, and life blossoms. Compassion flourishes, and love spreads across the land. And there are many, many moments in our lives when we experience, I am not. And there are dire, dire consequences, not only for each of us in our own mind and spirit, but for our village and for the world. Tonight, we have this question placed to each of us. I am, or I am not. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing this time with me on this 3rd installment. And tomorrow we'll hear the 4th segment of Mark's Passion narrative. Thank you.